Back again in my favourite woodland, and it's a very different day today. Might be able to see it's quite misty. There's a ghostly looking lady behind me somewhere, so if you see a sort of ghostly looking figure, maybe I'm being haunted. It's another great day to be outside. The greyness that pervades almost every view creates this contrast against the trees, and we get really incredible patterns. And contrast, and because the mist makes, look at this behind me, you can see some very satisfying symmetry to these telegraph poles going off, and I quite like the juxtapositioning here of the telegraph poles against the white background and the trees. It's so sort of stark and creepy, and I love it. It's so atmospheric on days like today, and for all the obvious reasons, and not quite as misty as I would like it, but this is good, and all makes everything feel a little bit black metal, Halloween, haunted forest. Although the only thing I think haunting this forest is me. Just thought it'd be good to have a look around again. There's like a hay bale, and I will talk from time to time about the role of surprise and contrast in art, and why on earth is there a hay bale there? I mean, how did it even get there? And next to this sort of cliff, I assume it fell down from the field, so someone's missing a hay bale, and I find that sort of thing quite interesting. The things where they shouldn't be, and I think that finding sort of unusual things and contrast in the environment is really an artist's job, because you might think that it's enough to take a scene and to put your signature style over it, and that's important, but subject is everything, certainly in representative or pictorial art. So the good artist chooses their subject well. The environment's quite noisy today. I don't really know why. I think it's because it's wet and the car tyres make a lot more noise on the road when it's wet, and I can hear shooting. There's a shooting range near me on the Glen Eagles Resort. Now this part of the woods is really creepy. Loads of spindly trees. It's really a bit more dense, and loads of different types of tree, all sort of nestling among each other. I always like to sort of observe how trees are distributed, and every one of these trees is a miracle because thousands of saplings grow every year, and most of them, the vast majority, don't make it, and especially if they're in some woodland like this where they're starved of light by the bigger trees. And we know about the trees try to look after each other, they try to look after other trees of their own species, and so some small trees will get nourishment from the bigger trees, but mostly they are starved out. And there's the river. And they're literally starved of light and nutrients and water, and every tree in this wood is fighting for survival and has had to fight for centuries, some of these, just to get to the point that they are now, and they bask in the light and compete for the light, and frequently they just get killed off. And it's an important part of the process, and it's how woodlands grow and expand and age. But it's quite a brutal process. And if you look at this tree here, I mean, it doesn't seem that big to you perhaps, but it's huge and got multiple boughs, and you know, that's led a long and brutal life. And here in Scotland, the weather don't care about, you know, your survival as a tree. And so these trees have survived wind and snow and all sorts of horrors, and humans chopping at them. Someone's nailed a block of wood to this. I don't know what that says before. I mean, that's quite cruel. Here's my favourite field, looking very atmospheric today. And the long views I had over towards the mountains before have completely gone. And there's a lot of mud. See all these beautiful little constructions made by farmers through the ages to drain their fields, and it's still working to this day. And it doesn't seem like much, but that little piece of rural engineering is working hard and still going after a very long time. Here's a tree that didn't make it, and so we have perhaps it got waterlogged in its roots, and then the wind got at it, but it's still growing. I mean, that thing's still alive. How incredible is that? That's how amazing trees are. They can be upended and still survive. Here's Craig Rossi, looking majestic as ever. Look at that. Look at that. That's incredible. Our local hill, looking mysterious and creepy like everything else is today. Another huge tree here, look. People walk through these woods and don't notice the trees, I think. They're just part of the terrain. It's they're incredible. There is I doubt you can see it, but That's a tree creeper. Just flew past. Tree creepers are little tiny birds that get their food from the bark of trees. Can't see it anymore. There he is. They get their food from insects in the bark of trees, and so they always start at the bottom and work their way up around the trunk of the tree and clear it of parasites and insects. They're quite cool little birds actually, but you've got to be paying a lot of attention to see them. Now look at this. This was months ago maybe was green and plush, and it now looks like, you know, desolate death and waste. But this is all gonna soak into the ground and give the trees around here nutrients. I don't know if there was any trees here at any point, but the ferns are keeping anything small from growing by starving it of light. Ferns are incredibly efficient at gathering light because of the structural nature of their leaves. They're fractal and they have those sort of triangular self-similar leaf patterns to maximize their surface area. It's not so similar and not so different to things like fern trees and conifers. So when the ferns or the bracken take over, they suck all the light from their surrounding areas because they're so efficient at capturing it. Craig Rossi over there. Oh, we can just about see the highlands. Let me see if I can get a better view. There we go. That dark smear in the background is Highland Scotland, hiding behind those trees. I'll zoom out a bit and you'll barely be able to see it. It's going to be pretty brutal up there right now. Don't go walking in the hills without the right equipment, kids. And there's always a bloody siren to destroy your karma. Look at these trees here, they're stretching out to the right here, hungrily trying to grab as much light as they can. And look at the size of those branches. There's so much chaos and destruction here. I can only assume that because it's quite a narrow band of trees that they get a lot of wind shear, and obviously that wind, the wind tends to come from the north from here, so they're healthier on my right, which is due south, and thinner on my left, where they're getting battered by the weather. And these smaller trees on the right are being protected by these bigger trees on the left. You'll see there's hardly any small trees on the left, but on my right there's tons of them. It's just more dense over there, almost certainly because this field channels wind. And it's worth noting these things because you get a real sense of time and transition. And as I was saying earlier, I think artists deal in transition and things that are out of the ordinary or that change and we're here to notice things that other people perhaps wouldn't. Partly why I'm recording these videos, because I'm just as capable as the next person of keeping my head down and, you know, existing in my own world and not really thinking about what's around me. And when I come out and do this, I'm sort of forced to pay attention and describe what I see, and I'm seeing more today than I would ever usually. This is an incredible tree. I'd love to be telling you what all these trees are, but I'm really not much of an expert. As much as I sound like I might be, I can never quite remember, but I think most of these are oaks. That's definitely, I can tell an oak. It's the rest of them I struggle with. I think that's a beech. Again, look, we've got a hedgerow across here. Going to be full of wildlife. Again, protected by the big trees. And then you get these little clearings here where a tree's come down. And that was probably a really big tree at some point. It's come down and it's opened up this space. And it can't have been that long ago, because if you look at this one, you'll see that it's kind of really free of branches, a bit sparse on this side, and that suggests that there was another tree behind it blocking the light from the other direction, and this one too. And this is how the cycle works. Now look at this thing. What is this? I think this is everyone's welcome to correct me on this. I think this is like a beech, despite the fact it's covered in oak leaves. Is it an oak? No, it's an oak. See, that isn't attached. I don't think it's an oak, but look at the size of that. And that's just sitting here, no one notices it. And look, someone's put some rocks in it. But I mean, this is really quite something. I have no idea how old that is, but that's got to be ancient, and it completely dominates this part of the woods, and it's sprouting all these lower branches, just trying to grab any light that it can, because it is being a bit squeezed by these other trees. That is an oak next to it, so it's competing with oaks on every side. So that's a survivor, that tree. Ain't nothing knocking that down. Whereas these, that was a massacre at some point. A couple of trees come down there, and another branch here, and another pile of rocks. I mean, so much character, so much going on around here. And a little baby tree here. And I come to my usual resting spot here. Maybe next time I'll do one of my other walks, but I think I'm pleased I came up here today. Here's my my view. So that'll do for today. I'm going to sit here and chill for a bit. Bye.